All right, Buffalo Bills fans, welcome to this episode of The Walkthrough. I'm your host, Anthony Marino. Happy to be here with you once again, part of the Overreaction Sports Network. Got you covered each and every day, talking about our beloved Buffalo Bills and heading in to another big matchup on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, right, this is one that I don't think you want to use the term must win when you've got 6 games left of the regular season, but at least for Buffalo Bills fans and the roller coaster that we've been on these last few weeks, it does feel like a bit of a must win for the Buffalo Bills. But certainly will be some adversity coming up for them and something that we will certainly talk about here on this episode. Now, each and every week our show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, and let's take a look at the lines heading into Sunday's game. Right now, the Buffalo Bills, 3-point favorites. That line has been dropping. I think it opened somewhere around 5. Now, I thought it was going to be 3.5 and checked right before started recording, and the line is down to 3 points. So the Buffalo Bills favored by a field goal on the road. The over-under is set at 45.5. And I think sometimes when you talk about that shift in the line, that ties into the injury report, which we get into each and every week here on the show. And I'm going to read it to you guys now. And it's going to take a minute or two because there's plenty of names here and what needs to be covered for the Bills. First up, quarterback Josh Allen with a right elbow. He was a full participant all week, no game status. At least from that standpoint, right? Like we all saw Josh Allen get beaten and battered against the Houston Texans. And, the fact that he was on the injury report, we'll be curious to see what it looks like for him on Sunday. Getting into some things that, again, a little bit expected here. Linebacker Terrell Bernard, we saw him with his arm in a sling. He did not practice at all this week. He is out for Sunday's game, has not been placed on injured reserve at this time. We'll see if something happens leading up to kickoff, but at least for right now, I see that as somewhat of an encouraging sign. Joey Bosa with his wrist, we know he's not playing at full, full capacity. He was a full participant all 3 days this week. No game status for him. The tackles for the Buffalo Bills, both Spencer Brown and Dion Dawkins, have been ruled out. For Brown, it's with the shoulder injury that seems like he hurt early in the third quarter against the Texans. From that standpoint, at least gives a little bit of an explanation with some of the struggles that we saw. And Dion Dawkins, although he did clear concussion protocol in Thursday night's game, he has not practiced at all this week. He is in the concussion protocol, and he has already been ruled out for Sunday's game. Reggie Gilliam, knee injury. He was a full participant all week, all good to go when it comes to Sunday. Tylen Grable coming off of injured reserve with that concussion. He was a full participant all week. Technically is not on the active roster, at least at the time of recording. He is considered questionable. Some good news. Maxwell Harrison went from a limited participant to a full the last 2 days. No game day status for him on Sunday. Same with Daquan Jones. He missed practice on Wednesday with an illness. He was a full participant on both Thursday and Friday. No game status for him. Maybe an encouraging sign, Dalton Kincaid with his hamstring. He did not practice on Wednesday, but was a limited participant on both Thursday and Friday. Sean McDermott has listed him as questionable heading into Sunday. Fedarian Mathis went from a limited participant on Wednesday to a full on Thursday and Friday. No game day status for him. Joshua Palmer with his ankle. He was limited on Wednesday, a DNP on Thursday, then limited again on Friday. He is listed as questionable. And finally, Curtis Samuel with his elbow and knee did not practice all week. On Friday, he was ruled out and eventually was placed on injured reserve. So with that, again, kind of a lengthy list, to say the least, for the Buffalo Bills. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of these injuries coming up because that has a huge impact on the team. And I try to remind myself sometimes when it comes to the frustrations that we have and the number of injuries that the Bills have dealt with. And I get it. Every team is dealing with injuries. It is not just the Buffalo Bills. That is fine. But, man, it certainly seems like they are just piling up each and every week. So, sometimes maybe if you're feeling a little bit down, you find a spot you can go to a happy place to say the least. And for you, maybe that is Anchor Bar, who's a proud supporter of the Overreaction Sports Network. You all know Anchor Bar. It's the home of the original Buffalo chicken wing, and it's the place that you can watch the Buffalo Bills and all your favorite sports teams. Go to anchorbar.com to see all the locations and get info on how you can order online. Anchor Bar Buffalo wings are fresh, never frozen, jumbo, high quality, deep fries and sauce however you like, right? 24 different varieties of sauces and dry rubs that you can choose from. And maybe if you go to Anchor Bar and you're not feeling like wings that day, or you want to get something else to go with your wings, listen, they got you covered. Appetizers, boneless wings, tenders, pizza, beef on weck, burgers, sandwiches, salads, wraps, they got you covered. And listen, 16 locations, 3 new locations that have just opened: Tucson, Arizona, Frisco, Texas, and Raleigh, North Carolina. And listen, I will make my weekly plug for the good folks at Anchor Bar to consider opening a location here in Albany, New York. I think that would certainly be fantastic. So big thanks to everyone at Anchor Bar for the support each and every week of the show. We appreciate you. And again, visit anchorbar.com for more details. So listen, let's dive into this matchup just a little bit more, see where things are for the Buffalo Bills and where it goes for us this week. I mean, certainly as you kind of look at things, the biggest concern are the 2 tackles, and Dion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. Certainly a tough showing against the Houston Texans, and now I think there's a little bit of a better understanding why. At least with Spencer Brown, we knew he, for the most part, was playing with just one arm in the second half. And listen, going against any NFL quality opponent, that is going to be something that is difficult. He has not been placed on IR at this time. I hope that is, a case that holds true, and he will be back sooner rather than later. And Dion Dawkins, we talked earlier in the show about the concussion. With this, it's a week and a half after the loss to the Texans. So you take everything with a little bit of, maybe trying to take an optimistic approach or looking for a silver lining and say, okay, as much as those 2 struggled in the second half, well, we know why, right? Spencer Brown playing with one arm, Dion Dawkins essentially playing with a concussion, even though he cleared the protocol. That is a tough situation. And listen, that is not giving any, Joe Brady is not getting off the hot seat when it comes to that and the lack of adjustments that the team made to get those 2 some additional help, especially knowing the injuries that they had and knowing that there was an effect there. So whether that be on Joe Brady, Sean McDermott, Aaron Cromer, or all 3 combined, whatever it may be, they needed to do something different, and they did not during that Thursday night game, but at least gives a little bit of an understanding of just like, okay, maybe the offensive line would have played a little bit better if those 2 were not experiencing those injuries. So as we go through with this, who is going to take over for them on Sunday? Nothing officially has been announced, but Joe Marino from Locked On Bills was looking at some practice footage, and he, noticed that Ryan Vandermark was lined up at left tackle, which, he's been a swing tackle for the Bills, but I guess left is his more, the side that he is more comfortable with. And Alec Anderson at right tackle. And, many of you know Anderson from at least last season where they used him in a ton of those jumbo packages. He could really play all 5 spots on the line. He did play right tackle at UCLA. So, for him, that might be, when's the last time he really played right tackle or got some reps there before this week? I don't know. But at least it's one of those scenarios where it's like, okay, this is not his first time playing the position. I also would have to imagine, right, if you are Joe Brady, that there is going to be some additional help. Maybe the team looks to do something, with a 6th offensive lineman, an extra tight end, keeping someone into, to chip on the edge rushers for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, we will certainly see, but I have to imagine they're not going to put Ryan Vandermark and Alec Anderson out there on an island. At least I certainly hope that would not be the case. So we will see what happens there, but it's tough enough to have one of your offensive tackles out, let alone 2, and we'll see how things go for the Buffalo Bills on Sunday and the type of adjustments that they look to make. A little bit of a shakeup taking place at wide receiver, right? Elijah Moore has been cut. Curtis Samuel has been placed on the injured reserve. Brandon Cooks has signed with the Buffalo Bills after getting his release from the New Orleans Saints. And Gabe Davis has been elevated from the practice squad to a permanent spot on the 53-man roster. At least with Gabriel Davis, that part seemed to be inevitable, right? With him signing with the team, his rapport with Josh Allen, the player that he's been in Buffalo, that, that seemed to be coming. Brandon Cooks, I'll be honest, when he was released, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know if that's really going to happen. You've got Samuel, you've got Elijah Moore. Like, is this kind of I don't even want to say a redundancy, like they're different players, but, at 32 years old, what is Cooks going to bring to the table? Well, they ended up signing him. Let's see what it looks like. I mean, a guy that certainly has brought a speed element earlier in his career. You can arguably say maybe he's lost half a step, but, for this season, being with the New Orleans Saints and kind of everything with that franchise and the lack of quarterback play and the struggles that they've had, maybe not the best representation of his skill set and who he is as a player. So something to keep an eye on. Again, the wide receiver talk, it's something that is certainly frustrating for Bills fans, just based on, all the moves taking place after the fact. For Curtis Samuel, like, a signing that, at least at the time, I think many folks were relatively excited about, that he was signed before Stephon Diggs was even traded away. So looking at Curtis Samuel and saying, hey, this guy could step in and be a good number 2 for you. But, the Bills can get out of his contract for next season, and for a team needing some cap space and for the lack of productivity that we've seen from Samuel, that is certainly probably the case. Elijah Moore, his release, there was a lot of excitement when he was signed this offseason. Even did some polls with Buffalo Rumblings online on my Twitter account, Anthony Marino. And people were expecting him to be more productive than he was with the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets. And, those were seasons where you're talking like 55 to 60 plus receptions, and someone that can really be a weapon for the Buffalo Bills offense. Not the case when it came to Elijah Moore, and he has been granted his release, and we'll see what happens. It's kind of one of those narratives that a lot of times someone signs with the Bills and they're like, well, now he's part of the Bills offense. He has Josh Allen as his quarterback. So, before he was playing with this laundry list of no-name quarterbacks that were not successful. But yeah, it's not like these guys are just stepping into Buffalo and resurrecting their careers. So, something to keep an eye on, what happens with Cooks, what happens with Gabe Davis. And again, is this the end of the line for Curtis Samuel? We will certainly wait and see. A big thing heading into this game, haven't talked about the defense much, but, the defensive line, there's always questions there. And now you've got Aaron Rodgers, who will be starting at quarterback for the Steelers. He's got like a fracture in his wrist. What is this game going to look like for them? Is it going to be really a run-heavy attack, which wouldn't be a surprise, right? Because the Bills have generally struggled against the run this season. I mean, a little bit of an understatement, right? But when you talk about that, is it going to be Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, and really those two being utilized the most? I have to imagine for Aaron Rodgers, it is going to be a very quick passing game. I mean, one, he doesn't like to take hits at 42 years old. Not that anybody really does like to take hits, so I'm not criticizing there. But it just, I'm going to look for them to be, he's not going to be holding the ball back there, especially he's missing his left tackle in Sunday's game. So it's just going to be, in my opinion, a lot of quick release passes, short timing routes, in addition to utilizing the run game for the Steelers. But that is going to put so much of the emphasis on the Buffalo Bills defensive line. And one, if it is a passing situation, a 3rd and long, can they get pressure on Rodgers, make things uncomfortable for him to maybe make a mistake? But is the defensive line going to be effective when it comes to stopping the run of the Pittsburgh Steelers? We have seen struggles from Jordan Phillips when he's been in the game, TJ Sanders playing out of position at defensive end, and the Bills just kind of lacking that ability to effectively stop the run, at least in certain portions, right? And you can talk about the game against the Texans. In the first half, they got gashed in the run game. In the second half, they played much better. So we need the Bills to pick up where they left off against the Texans when it comes to the matchup with the Steelers on Sunday. So can we see more from TJ Sanders? Can we see him playing at defensive tackle instead of playing at defensive end? Is Daquan Jones able to kind of be that one tech? And, Deion Carter continue to show, not Deion Carter, sorry. Listen, it's been a long enough day here when you go through things. But can we look at things for the Buffalo Bills and have that group continue to shine? And can Gregory Rousseau maybe take advantage of a situation again when you have the Steelers without their starting left tackle to see what he is able to do. My last piece that I've been thinking about with this game comes to James Cook. And I realize when you look at the stat sheet for the last week's loss to the Texans, 17 rushes for 116 yards, certainly many saying like he should have gotten the ball more. A 45-yard run, that kind of skews the averages just a little bit. I don't want to make it sound like 17 for 116 and a touchdown is a bad game. Certainly not it. But the Buffalo Bills are probably going to need a little bit more of a James Cook all-pro type performance on Sunday than they've had the last couple of weeks. Maybe catching more short passes out of the backfield, being more effective in the run game. And I realize that is not just on him, right? When I say James Cook, it's, the offensive line, the pass game, the blocking, so much that goes into it. But just, for the Buffalo Bills to be successful against the Steelers, we're going to need to see them be successful in the run game. And that starts with James Cook. And again, you think to just some of these past couple of games. I mean, even the game against the Buccaneers, more effective as a pass catcher than maybe a rusher in that game. Okay, I get that piece. Some struggles against the Miami Dolphins, and we saw the fumble late there. Like, James Cook, I don't want to make it sound like getting back on track because that's not it. But I, including many others, were a little skeptical. Like, gosh, are they rushing the ball too much early in the season? Well, now with some of these injuries and what's taking place and kind of the way things match up with the Steelers defense, it's going to need to be a James Cook game on Sunday, and I certainly hope that is the case. Now, listen, if you are watching the show, on YouTube, hit me with a Go Bills in the comments section. That always helps us to reach more people. Make sure you comment, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. That helps us reach more and more Buffalo Bills fans so they get all the great shows here at the Overreaction Sports Network. So, do your thing. Make sure that you get the walkthrough every week. You're also going to be hearing shows from Joe Miller, John Fina, Jerry Ostrowski, Zig Fracassi, Dan Freddy. We got you covered each and every week. And, again, here we are, the Buffalo Bills sitting at 7-4, big game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, I realize it's been a little bit of an up and down, but we are here with you every step of the way as we go through this season and have a little fun along the same line. So always appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. Again, as we talk about this game, keeping an eye on the offensive tackle positions. Let's see what we can get from Ryan Vandemark and I'm assuming Alec Anderson on Sunday. Hopefully those guys can step up and, fill the shoes of Dion Dawkins and Spencer Brown admirably for the Bills. Brandon Cooks, is he going to be active? We will certainly see. Maybe making his debut for the Buffalo Bills, and Gabe Davis being elevated to the 53-man roster. Let's see what we've got there. Defensive line, it's time, right? So let's see what can take place. We have not seen that Greg Rousseau real breakout game yet. We saw it in week 1 of the 2024 season with 3 sacks against the Arizona Cardinals. Let's see if he can take advantage of the situation on Sunday and show everybody that, there's no question about him deserving and earning that contract that he got in the offseason. And finally, James Cook. Let's see James Cook do his thing on Sunday. That is going to be critical for the Buffalo Bills. And I got a good feeling inside that this is going to be, kind of one of those breakthrough type of performances for him. Not that he's been off track, but, where the Bills get a victory and James Cook looks like that all-pro running back that we've seen so many times this season. That's what I'm looking forward to on Sunday. So, again, thank you guys for tuning in. Always appreciate you. Go Bills, and we'll see you back here next week. Take care.